Hey guys, it's Chris at Highline Guitars, and you're watching another episode of From the Luthier's Workbench. If you like to build or repair guitars, I suggest you click that subscribe button down below, and you'll become part of a community of fellow luthiers. And together, we can take your skills to a whole new level. If you'd like to support my guitar building YouTube channel, visit eguitarplans.com and buy a plan. A link is in the description below. Now on with the video. In this episode, I'll be covering part 14 of the Highline Echo Laminated Top guitar build. Now in the last episode, I pumped the brakes so that I could talk a little bit about component selection. And that should mean that for this episode, I would be installing those components. Well, I've decided to pump the brakes yet again. And the reason for that is I've decided to revisit the high gloss clear coat finish that I level sanded, polish sanded, and buffed back in episode 12. After I had posted that episode, the folks at Eagle Abrasives, who sell the super acrylic sanding abrasives that I like to use, contacted me, and we had a little bit of a discussion about the best ways to use their product to achieve the results that I'm after. You see, over the years, it's been really a challenge for me to explain to different clear coat manufacturers and different abrasive manufacturers what it is I'm trying to achieve with my high gloss mirror-like finishes. And it seems one of the problems is that a lot of folks tend to think that what we as luthiers are trying to accomplish is the same as what a furniture manufacturer is trying to accomplish. And in truth, it's very different. With furniture, you can typically apply your clear coat finish and you're good to go. But with guitars, we are expecting this mirror-like high gloss shine. And it has to be distortion free. The mirror-like reflections have to be as precise and as sharply focused as what you would see in an actual mirror. And this can be really tough to explain to people. And it's even more difficult to try to explain how to achieve that kind of finish. You have to level sand and then polish sand the surface to get that perfection that we desire in our clear coats. Well, after discussing this with the folks at Eagle Abrasives, we came to the conclusion that the process has to involve that initial level sanding. And what they were suggesting in the beginning was to use a softer interface pad because it isn't necessary to use a hard block. I, on the other hand, was really sort of demanding the use of a harder block in order to get that surface perfectly flat. That way I could polish it up and then buff it, and the result would be that mirror-like, perfectly distortion-free shine. So what Eagle did was they sent me a sample of it's an interface pad. Whenever you use their abrasives, you take the abrasive sheet and you attach it to a pad. Well, the pad that I was using was a very soft, flexible pad. So after having this discussion with Eagle Abrasives, they sent me this harder, stiffer interface pad. And that's what I'm going to use to level sand prior to the polish sanding phase. So I'll use this hard pad, then I'll switch probably to the softer pad as I work through the higher grits all the way up to 3000 grit to get the surface perfectly polished prior to buffing. So because of this, I really wanted to try this out, but I didn't want to wait to try it out on a future guitar build. So what I did was I sanded off my beautifully polished clear coat finish, and I have resprayed it with an additional 8 coats of my Crystal-Lac Brightone high gloss finish. And what I'm doing now is I'm letting it cure. So once this has cured, which will probably be right after Christmas, I'll begin the process of level sanding and polish sanding using a harder abrasive pad. And we'll see how that works. I'm confident it's going to work quite well. Now, as kind of an additional challenge, I'm also going to be level sanding and polish sanding this guitar. Now, the difference between this guitar and this one is this one has a completely flat surface, whereas this guitar is a carved top. It has to be treated very differently because this extra hard interface pad isn't probably going to work as well with this. I'm not totally sure about that yet. We'll see, but I'm going to try to use these techniques that I've discussed with Eagle Abrasives to see if I can get the finish the way I want it. Now, the reason why this has been somewhat of a challenge is because I'm using the Crystal-Lak Brightone, which is a water-based finish, and I am determined to use a dry sanding technique. And I've had good luck with dry sanding techniques over the years, but with this new product, I see the potential for rapid level sanding and polish sanding leading up to the stage of buffing. So that's really what I'm kind of focused on achieving here. You can't really wet sand a water-based finish. I know some folks will argue that you can, but in my experience, it's just not a good idea. It's always better to dry sand. And dry sanding is a technique which requires a little bit of a learning curve to master it. So I'm hoping that in this episode where I will be re-leveling and polish sanding this guitar, I can relate that experience to you so that you can save time learning yourself the best way to dry sand the surface level and then polish sand it. So we'll see how that works out. But at any rate, that's kind of what is going to be happening. And I've once again pumped the brakes. But you know, the cool thing is with guitar builds like this, these are spec builds, which I like to do for fun on the side. And then once they're done, I'll put them up for sale. But I'm in no particular rush to build them. It's not like I'm building a guitar for a customer where we have an agreed upon deadline that I need to try to meet. Instead, I can do these as you know, at my own leisure, or I shouldn't say leisure, but at my own pace. And that way I can, if I want to, I can stop and revisit a technique and try something different and do some experimentation, and then you can benefit from it. So really, that's all I've got for this episode. I know it's, you know, like the last episode, it's kind of a talky one, but that's because this has got to cure before I can continue working on it. And hopefully in the next episode, I'll get started on that. So once again, if you really enjoy videos on building guitars and you don't subscribe to the Highline Guitars YouTube channel, click that subscribe button, click the bell notification so you get an email probably twice a week every time I post a new episode to my channel. And as always, if you have any comments or questions, leave them down below and I'll do my best to answer them, or somebody else in the community will try. And if you would like to show some support for this channel and get something in return, head over to eguitarplans.com and purchase a plan. So until the next episode, take care, have a great Christmas, stay safe, and I'll see you soon.